So in here, the term swarming means attacking a particular system or what you call doing load testing or stress testing. The tool, the hatching. It's called production. There was a term called hatching in Locust before the version 1.2, which get renamed as spawn. So what is spawn? Spawn means releasing and depositing. So when it comes to spawn, you basically spinning up the new user to attack the system. And also Locust comes with Flask micro web application framework so that you can get a beautiful web UI. And by default, Locust comes with the distributed mode. When it comes to JMeter or any other performance testing tool, you have to spend time on distributed mode. But in here, it's easy that you have to spin up the master on multiple worker mode and initiate your test on multiple systems. And also easier to maintain and configure performance test for different environments under version control systems like JIT. As well as resource consumption is also low in Locust. And so Gandhi, we can't say that this is the best or we should go with Locust. There is no such like that. Depend on your interest to coding or UI test, your purpose or the scenario, we can choose Locust.
Yes, I think Dilusha gave a pretty good introduction about Locust, but I think I can add something from the developer perspective as well. So as developers, we all love to code, right? So now we have our infrastructure as code, our AWS environment, Azure environment, everything we can script. And we also have our DevOps pipelines as code. We use YAML pipeline and deploy our software. So since everything is moving to code, I think this is a good time to make use of code to do our distributed testing as well. So using Locust, you can do distributed testing as code. We can maybe define it as test as code. So since Locust is just another Python module, you can install it in your machine and create some a program that you can debug and you can console log. You can do anything that you do in your normal day-to-day development while you are doing distributed testing in Locust. So I think that was a pretty important advantage of Locust for developers, because it will be easier to get started for them as well, because developers might not know how to use dedicated testing tools such as JMeter and Roadrunner, but they will be able to get started with Locust easily since they already have development knowledge. And we can also use Locust just like another development programming project. We can use source control as Dilusha mentioned, and we can use logs, we can use debugging, and we can install almost any Python module to Locust. So if you want to run some business logic within your distributed testing, you can even do that. So even from developer perspective, I think Locust has some good advantages for us.
Yeah, thank you, Dishan. That's really interesting to know. And I'm curious to know when we compare to other tools like JMeter, what do you see special features as in Locust? But Lucia, do you like to?
Yeah, so as we all know, and the very famous tool is JMeter. So let me compare JMeter and Locust with a few features and abilities. If we take operating system, yes, in JMeter and Locust, both we can have any operating systems. And yes, both tools are open source. And if we go into GUI, yes, it's available for JMeter and Locust, both. And if we consider execution monitoring, in JMeter, it has console, file, graphs, and Locust also we have console and web. And next, support of test as code. It's weak in JMeter, but it's very strong in Python with the Python code in Locust. As I said earlier, it's the power of Locust. And if we consider about inbuilt protocol support, as you know, in JMeter, it has inbuilt protocols support as for HTTP, FTP, SMTP, POP3, IMAP, likewise various protocols. But in Locust, it has only HTTP as inbuilt, but that is not an issue. You can simply import Python module and use other protocols as well. And next, if we consider about recording functionality, it's there in JMeter, but unfortunately, it's not there in Locust. And distributed mode. Yes, in JMeter and Locust, both we have distributed mode, but it's very easy in Locust than JMeter. Then easy to use with VGS. If we consider that thing, it's compared to JMeter, it's easier in Locust. And the resource consumptions. In JMeter, it's more resource required than its Locust, less resource required. And if we go into the results analyzing, yes, in both JMeter and Locust, both we can do results analyzing. Likewise, we can compare the Locust with JMeter or other performance testing tool. And what I have described were some of them, and there are a lot.
Okay, Dirusha. So when we listen to you, I feel like there are some prerequisites that we have to start working with Locust. So do you have any kind of prerequisite that we should have? And if we have, such as knowledge in Python kind of, so if we have that kind of prerequisite, if we learn them and if we put effort on the effort, and do we get any ROI doing that? As a developer, I think Dishan could comment it very well, I guess. Dishan, over to you.
Yes, I think it's always good to learn new things, right? So every day we learn something new. So if you start to load test with Locust, I think if you don't have prior knowledge with Python, you will have to learn some basic Python commands. So for example, if you do JMeter or some maybe use Postman or something, so you might already use JavaScript or Java. So Python is kind of similar to those languages where you have classes and you have variables that you can store data and you have functions. So it's good to learn. So in Locust, there are different classes. So it's good to learn what a class is and how to make use of them. And if you want to store data within your distributed testing, you need to know how to make a class variable and how to store data in those variables. And maybe if you want to do some further logic with your responses, you need to know how to manipulate data, maybe how to convert your string response from your API and to an object, deserialize. So there are some basic Python knowledge is required for Locust, but I think it will be very easy to get started for everyone. So if we are talking about QA, their main concern is testing. So they already have knowledge about how to do a distributed test and what kind of stages, what is the the scope and the things that we need to test. So for them, I think the starting point will be to learn Locust and Python. But for developers, it will be the other way. They need to learn how to do a proper distributed test, what to test and what is the scope, other things, because they will be able to start with Locust easily because they have the development knowledge. So it's kind of opposite for both sides. So I think the ROI is pretty obvious for us because we learn new things, and if you learn Locust, you will be able to compare Locust with other tools in the market. So it will be easy to make decisions and make use of the best tool out there for our requirements. Yeah.
Yeah, Deshan, thank you for the informative comment. And so far, we have discussed why we should use locals and background of it and prerequisites we should have. And guys, please note if you have any question, please post it in the chat. We will answer you at the end of the session. And with that comment, and we will move into the next session segment of this panel discussion. So we are going to give you we are going to give you some kind of a demo, and we will show you how to how to start working with Locust, and what kind of Python knowledge should have to start Locust and all, and that kind of thing. So Dishan, can you do a small demo how to start the Locust, and what are the things they should have, prerequisites we should have with the Python with the Locust? And
Yes, of course. Let me share my screen so I can show you guys how to install and configure everything. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Hello.
yes, Dishan, we can see it.
Good. So the first thing that we need to do is installing Python. So if you don't have Python already installed in your machine, you should start by installing Python. So you can just Google search download Python and come to the Python download page. And we can download the latest Python version because Locust even supports that. So when you download Python, you can verify the Python installation by opening a command prompt and typing Python in there. So if you type Python, you can see the Python version installed in your machine. So in my case, I have Python 3.9.7 installed. So I'm all good to start with Locust. So how to start with Locust? Locust have a pretty good documentation on their website. So if you search Locust documentation, you will be able to come to this website, and there we have a section called installation. So in here, they assume that we already have Python installed, and other thing we need to do is install Python package. Sorry, Locust package. So just like installing a JavaScript package or a Node.js package, we just have to run this command pip3 install Locust. So I have already run that in my machine. So if we want to verify, what we need to do is just like what we did for Python, we can run locust -v, and this will output the current Locust version installed locally in our machine. So I have Locust 2.4.0 installed. Now we are all ready. Then we need to create a simple Locust test. To see that our installation is working properly. So in here we have a getting started section, and they have a simple hello world Locust program. There we have a class and we have a task. So we use task to run our test, and we have a HTTP client. So this HTTP client will execute our API calls, and we can use this to do our API testing. So if I copy this, and you can create a simple locust file.py file in your machine and open it in your favorite IDE. So in here, I'm using PyCharm, but you can also use VS Code or any other IDE that you are familiar with. And you have to create a small file, locust file.py or something like that. So in here, I have a class, just like what we had in the documentation, but I have done a small change. I have changed the API request URL to users/2, and it is a get call. And I have defined the host or the domain of my API call as this piptest.in. This is a free website that we can use to test our web API. So if we define these two, we can run this task and see that our Locust program is running. So if we go to Locust installation, the folder where created that Python file, what we need to do is type Locust and pass that file as an argument. So we can use -fo, which stands for file. We can use -f command and then select the file we just created. So I have it under Locust files and then locust file.py. And if I run this, we can see that Locust is running our distributed test, our performance test. So in here, they give a small summary, but first let me show you the GUI mode, since this is the CLI mode. In here, yeah, I will talk about the configuration file as well. So in Locust, we have a concept called configuration file. So I told you that we can pass command line arguments like this, right? When you are running a Locust command, so -f, we pass the file. But using a configuration file, we can define all our command line arguments in a file so that we don't have to define all our arguments every time we want to run our Locust test. So in here, I have a method called headless. I will comment this out for now and I will explain this later. But in here, I have defined Locust file and I have to define the file. I have. So it is this locust file.py. I will give the name. And now we can simply run Locust without providing any arguments. So when I run Locust, it will start Locust as a web interface. So if I go to localhost 8089 in my computer, we will be able to see Locust interface. So this is the default Locust interface. We can define the number of users and the spawn rate of the users and even the host that we want to test. And we can click start forming. And when we start the test, you come to this page where we have charts and we can see the failures in our test. And if we have any exceptions from failures, we can even see those. So this is running Locust. So this is the GUI mode. And when we define headless equal true, it will run in the CLI mode. So when we are running headless mode, we have to define the parameters we gave when we are running the GUI mode, such as the number of users, and you can even define some other parameters. You can see all these parameters in the Locust documentation. You can go to configuration section, and there we have the configuration file, and we can see all the parameters that Locust supports. We can define the spawn rate and the number of users, and whether to auto start it or auto quit. So there are so many commands that we can play with. Yes, I think you guys might have gotten a pretty good idea about how to get started with Locust by now.
Yeah, Dishan. So thank you for that. And as I would like to ask from you, Dilusha, as a QA and as of experience by using this Locust, what are the specific features that you see in the Locust? Can you show us few of them, because the audience can get the idea about the features that they can use?
Yes, Gandhi. There are a lot of features in Locust, and let me tell you about Locust classes. which have to get to know as basic to proceed further with other features. So user, HTTP user, task set, and sequential task set classes are the frequently used classes in the Locust. And also there are variables like wait, wait time, task, and etc. So let's learn Locust classes. Let me share my screen. I hope you can see my screen, right?
Yes, Dirusha.
Yeah, the first is a user class. In the first of all, in Python, everything is an object. Whatever you create is an object. You can create an object by following a blueprint called class. In user class, user represents a user, which is to be spawned and attack the system. In JMeter, we use thread, whereas in here, it's greenlet, which means a micro thread. And this is my user class created, and you can see we can import the inbuilt classes from Locust. We are from Locust import user. Since this is a user class, I import user. And here I have two classes and my first test and my second test. And I have given a weight here. So that is because of sometimes it's printing. It print only the prints I have given in the first class, but not the second class. For that purpose, to fix this, I have given a weight here. And let's execute this and see the result. To execute this, first you have to give locust minus f. Minus f. That is the file that is represent file. Then you have to give the file name. Then let's give the file name. Okay, so you can see as Dishan explained, when the local host is open, it's launching, and let me launch the browser. I hope you can see two windows by now, right?
Yes, Dirusha.
Yeah. So this is the Locust UI, and here the number of users, same as the threads in JMeter, and then the spawn rate. Spawn rate in the sense how quickly you want to spawn the users. So here I'm going to give 1 user per second and total number of users as 2. Let's see, give 2 and 1 here. And I'm not here, there is no host. As you can see in class, I haven't used any host, just a simple class because this is a user class. And let's start swarming. Okay, so you can see it's printing all the 4 values. But you can observe something, right? There is no breathe time. It's printing, it's hammering to all the instances without a breathe. So I'm giving a phase time or think time to solve this. And in load runner, we call it as think time, and in JMeter, we call it as timer. I hope you guys are aware about it. And let's stop this and give a constant wait time. This is how my class by now. I've given a wait time as well, and let's execute it. Okay, let's open. Okay, now you can see they have given, the system has given a breathe time or the think time and printing. So that is why we have to use a wait time. And let's stop this. I hope that you can get a good understanding about the user class. Then let's move to the next class. That is about HTTP user class. That is what you all are using for API testing. I hope you all know. And here I have import HTTP user class, and I have one class. This is the host, and within that there are two tasks, one for get and the other one for host. And also I have asked to print headers, status codes, and text. Let's execute this and see the behavior. Okay, the host is there. Then let's form it. Under here you can see it's printing all the status codes and the headers and the text, since I have requested to print it, and everything is printing nicely in console. And let's move to the UI and see what we can observe in UI. So this is let's move to the charts first. Here you can see total request per seconds and response times and the number of users. I have given 2 users. And here the medium response time, 95% percentile, and everything. This is for the, this is an aggregate report. And you can see RPS. And here also you can see RPS. And let's move back to the statistics again. Okay, so the other than the aggregated values, you can see specific values for the each API. Yeah, I'm gonna pause and get. And you can see average, 90% percentile, and the median percentile. I hope you are aware about these 3 values, but just to give a rough idea, average can give a fair picture when the data is huge and doesn't include heavy outliers. However, in real life, data contains heavy outliers, and thus average can be skewed and gives us a misleading picture. And these additional options like 90th percentile and median in our reports, we can solve it. So median or the 50th percentile is the middlemost value, which means that half the time your performance was faster than this value and half the time worse. Median are not skewed by the values of outliers. And 90th percentile. 90th percentile tell you that 90% of the time your performance was better than this, but 10% of time it was lower. So this number sets a realistic expectation with customers. We'll show you back the graph again to get you an idea. And let's stop this. Okay, so we learned user class and then HTTP user class. Let's move to another class, that is task set class. In HTTP user class, you have seen that I have used only one class. Within that, I have given two tasks within the class. The host and everything is under one class. In task set class, what we are going to do is we are adding two classes and giving host inside one class and giving our task, the get and post method in the other class. And in this main class where it has the host, we are calling this my HTTP cat class, this class inside this. So let's execute this and see the behavior. There is no any difference in the behavior. So this is just the easy way of writing the code using task set class. But just to give you an idea, let's execute this and see. Three. It's launched. Two users and one swarming red. And start swarming it. Okay. So you can see not only this class, even in user class and HTTP user class, I hope that you have observed something, that these results are not printing according to the order, or what I can say, not according to the sequential order. Then in next class, let me show you how we can organize these results according to the sequential order. Since this is the same thing as the HTTP user class, only the code is different. I'm not going to explain this again. Let me stop this and close. Let's move back to the sequential class. So here you can see I have import from Locust import sequential task set class. And I'm executing same code, but the class name is different. Okay, so now you can see it's printing according to the order 500 and 200. Not as before, like there was no order in previous classes, now printing according to the order. Okay, let's stop this as well. Okay, these are the classes, the main basic classes in Locust: user class, HTTP user class, task set class, and you can find nested task set task class as well. And the other main class is sequential task set class. Since it's done, and then let me tell you one more thing, that is about wait time. So there we have used wait time, constant wait time. Other than that, you can use time.sleep inside a task like this. But just assume that if you are giving wait time, constant spacing wait time under class. So here I have given constant spacing wait time as 5 seconds and time.sleep is 3 seconds. So when I am executing this, what would happen is, even though I have given time.sleep as 3 seconds, system considers not the 3, it considers 5. So let's execute this. Fire. Lesson by wait time. Okay. Launch. Let's say 1, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5. So you can see it's not 3 seconds, it's 5 seconds. For each 5 second printing, just after each 5 seconds, not the 3 seconds. That is how you can use one base constant spacing inside the class to not to consider the time.sleep given within the task. So Gandhi, these are the classes and some of the basic features we should get to know before proceed with the other like complex features in Locust. I hope that everyone can get a good idea about Locust classes. Over to you, Sugandhi.
Yeah, thank you, Dilusha. Yeah, that's true. It is really interesting to know there are a lot of classes, but when it comes to the knowledge of Python and Locust, no, you don't need to worry about much because both are really user-friendly languages and tool also user friendly. So if you have start learning it today, you can easily learn it and no need to worry about that. So we actually, when we start this session, we thought you might have an idea about the performance testing, but let me give before I move into next segment, let me give you a brief on what is performance testing. When it comes to the performance testing, what we do is we are testing our application against the load in the sense users, so and see the behavior of the application. So most of the performance testing tools are facilitating this feature. Then I would like to put this question into the panel. How do we facilitate that feature in the Locust? Do we have can we simulate multiple users with the Locust, and can we create custom load, and can we debug? And I think Dishan can give you a good answer for this.
Yes, I can take this. So as you said, the performance testing scenario might be different, is different according to our use cases. So sometimes it won't be enough to adjust the number of users or the spawn rate or the wait time as Dilusha showed you earlier to gain a realistic test result. So in that case, what we can do is we can create a custom load shape. So we can define the number of users and for how long those number of users should test, and then we can come to another scenario. So likewise, we can define several scenarios and execute them together. So that feature is usually we call a custom load shape. So even with Locust, we can do custom load shapes. So as you might guess, that is also done using code. So in here, I have created a simple custom load shape. So if I can explain this briefly, I have an array called stages. So within this stages array, I have several objects, and within an object, I have a property called duration. So this will be the duration that I want to run this stage for. And I can even define the number of users that I want in this stage and the spawn rate of those users. So like this, we can define several stages in order to create our own shape. So this is just one way of creating a custom load shape. So once we have this array, this tick function will get the number of users and the spawn rate and all the other data we define in this array, and it will run our load test according to the parameters defined. So if I can show test, so I have this stages load test file. So I will copy this file name and go to the Locust configuration file we had earlier and put the file name. And since we have already defined the number of users here, we don't want this property in our configuration file, and we'll run it in the GUI mode so that we can get a better view of the charts. So once we have this Locust configuration file, we can open up our command prompt or PowerShell, anything you like, and just simply type Locust. And this will start a Locust instance according to what we have defined. So now our Locust test is started. I will go to the browser. So in here now we don't have to define the number of users for this spawn rate, but we can give the cost. So if we start swarming and go to charts, we'll be able to see that our test started with 10 users. So if we compare with our file we defined, we are starting with 10 users for 15 seconds. So after 15 seconds, our test will increase up to 50 users. Now you can see the number of users chart is increasing, and with that, our total request per second is also increasing. So now we are running with 50 users. And after 50 users, we are increasing up to 100 users. And that will run for 75 seconds. So now you can see that in the chart, we have 100 users, and this will keep running. So in this way, we can create any custom load shape we want using stages. But this is not the only way. So if you go to Locust documentation, you can read everything about custom load shapes, and they have some examples as well on GitHub. So if you click on this link, you will be able to see some examples, but let's see the status of our test. Let's see. Yeah, now it ran for 75 seconds with 100 users, and then it decreased for 30 users, and then it gradually decreased to 10 users, and now it will stop. So now you can see that we have a nice custom load shape. So we can define all the test scenarios you want. You can do some spike testing or stress testing, anything you want using these custom load shapes. So if we go back to documentation, there we have in the custom shape folder, we have several custom load shapes. You can even define the step load and double wave. So you can refer to these or else implement your own custom load shape when you are developing your test.
Okay. Okay, Disha. So let's say that you are having an issue with your script. Do we have easy way to debugging, and do we have logs to see what is the error and exceptions?
Yes. So when I was running some JMeter test, I always used to log all my responses. But in Locust, we have a better way of debugging to catch errors in our in our Locust load test. So developers in here might know that we can debug our programs, right? So just like we debug our .NET or JavaScript or other programs, we can debug our Python program. So how to debug Locust? Since this is just another Python program, we can debug our load test. So if you open your Locust program in your favorite IDE, you can test the debug configuration as a module. So we have two ways of testing. We can test the script and we can test the module. So we have to test the module in order to debug Locust, since it is a Python module. So what you need to do is select module name and put Locust. You can give this same configuration in Visual Studio Code as well in the launch settings file. So if you put Locust as the module name, and we can also make use of our configuration file. I think I can test this sequential task set file. So I will get the task name and go to Locust configuration and put it here. And since we'll be running in headless mode, I will have to uncomment these lines again. And then it is as simple as putting a breakpoint. So since this is a sequential task set, these tasks will run in order. So I have create, update, and delete tasks. So first, let's put a debug point to create task. So we can put debug point here, and if you want to see the response, you can put a debug point here and click on the debug button. So in VS Code also we have this debug button. This is not something specific to PyCharm. And now our Locust test will start, and you can see that we already hit our first debug point. So we can travel line by line, and if we continue, we will hit our next debug point, hopefully, yes. And then we can inspect this variable. So I'm assigning the response from this post API call, where I'm creating a new user called Morpheus and leader. So with the job leader, so I'm assigning that response to this response variable. So if we hover over this variable, we can see the response, and within content, we can see what the response is from the API. So like this, you can debug your Locust load test, and if you have any errors, you can easily debug and find out what the error is. You can continue,
Okay.
and if you click continue, this will run as usual.
Okay, Disha.
You can see the
So
summary.
yeah, so thank you, Disha. With that also we have discussed about the why we need Locust, what are the features and how we use it. And guys, do you have any question? Please post them in the chat, Teams chat, so we can answer them at the end. So I think with that we have came to the end of our time together. So if there's any let's say if there's anything you would like this audience to take away from this session, what would it be, Dirusha? So what kind of thing that they can take away from this session?
Yeah, yes, again, yeah. Nowadays, there's a trend in industry that moving away from traditional load testing approaches to code to test approach by switching to tools like Locust. So Locust was created to solve some specific issues of current existing performance testing tools, but it also have both pros and cons. In Locust, client behavior can be entirely specified by the user by using a regular Python. Therefore, it's highly flexible tool and supports running load test distributed across multiple machines. And as I explained earlier, resource consumption is also low. But then again, we need to have a basic Python knowledge to work with Locust. So that the required technical skill set is a bit more higher than using non-code tools. So based on the pros and cons of the tool, our purpose, interest, and our scope of performance, load or stress testing, we can choose a tool as we preferred. But as in line with how industry goes, it would be an advantage for us to learn a modern performance testing tool like Locust.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Most of the researchers are using this tool because it's getting using less resources in the when we do the performance test. So I agree with you, Dilusha. So do you have anything to add, Disha?
Yes, I think as I told in the beginning of the session, Locust will be a good solution if you want to manage everything as code in your project. So you can manage your infrastructure and your load test and your pipelines, everything as code. So it will be very easy to manage all your project knowledge. And as Dilusha mentioned, since the resource consumption is low, we can do the distributed testing very easily because we can simply create a Docker container and run everything. And if we already have some developers who are interested in load testing, they can easily get started. So I think all in all, Locust will be a very good solution depending on the use case.
Yes. Thank you, Disha. So don't worry about the video recording. So we are planning to upload this session into the YouTube later. And I would like to add some point regarding this session. So our panelist has written some blog post which is listed under top 10 article per week in the Medium platform. So we will share those link as well. So then you can refer them and you can get idea and hope with this session you will start using Locust and for your performance testing purposes. So with that, if you have any question, please post in the chat. We have few question with we already raised by the audience. So I would like to point that to you, Dishan, the first one. Can we execute Locust in our Devops pipeline? So that's most of them had that question.
Yes. So executing Locust load test in DevOps pipeline is very easy because Locust has configurations. Like if you are running in Azure DevOps, for example, we can use Docker. So we can use already available Docker Compose file and provide our Locust code files, yeah, as a Git repository or something, and we can just run the normal Locust command within our DevOps pipeline. So since we have a headless mode, it's very easy because it will be low resource consumption and we can configure everything. So we can use the Locust configuration file and Docker together to run Locust in our DevOps pipeline. So it doesn't have to be Azure DevOps. You can run in Jenkins or any other platform where Docker is available.
Okay, thank you. There's another one question, small question, so we could wrap up with that question. Dilusha, can we export the results from the Locust?
Yes, we can actually. I couldn't show it during when I was showing the user classes. Let me share my screen back and show you everyone. Yes, I hope you all can see my screen back.
Yes.
And let's execute one class. Okay, okay, let's start swarming it. And I have explained you statistic charts and the failures, exceptions. This is none. And here you can see download data. And you can download either the statistics, failures, exceptions, or the report. Here simply you can see guys, and here you can download the report and check in later as well. I hope the audience could get the idea.
Yes, Dhanusha. Thank you for that. And before we wrap up, I would like to remind you that this session, since this is bit technical, so you could re-watch if you need. We will upload that in the video to YouTube next week, within this week. And also, we really do appreciate your interest in Locust. And thank you for coming. And if you have any question, feel free to post it in the chat. We will reply then and there. Thank you. And thank you, Dilusha, and thank you, Disha. And thank you, CQC, for giving us the opportunity to present the Locust research we have done. And thank you for coming and participate. Good evening, guys.
Thank you once again, everyone.
Thank you for joining.